Okay, my good friends, Roger Mudfossil University. I did an interview with Veritas TV a while back, and he just premiered it a couple days ago or yesterday. Now, it's Mud Fossils and Velikovsky, Minds in Collision, was a book I wrote. And we had quite a long video, so an hour long, and it's just discussion. And but here's what he makes a point, and I want to revisit this because I have some brand new information. This is a never closing case. If you think the case is closed and you just go about your life and never continue to think, well, I don't know why. All right, now listen to this. Here's what he has to say.
The word believe is mythology. What is the actual term? Is sworn affidavits or statements by priests and kings. And when we think of these mythological creatures from the past, as you mentioned, Zeus, from the Greek, and all the rest of them, what if they actually existed? But because they were wiped out, and we're trying to just prevent people from understanding that there was life before the time when we're told that life began on Earth. Let's go back to Devil's Tower. People think of Devil's Tower, those who watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that's what they think. But they don't think that it could have been a part of a foot. And the question is, if that was a giant standing there, what happened? Did it get stuck in the mud and the upper part broke? What happened?
Yeah, well, that's what happened. They would.
All right, now I'm going to go on to explain, to my best knowledge, he would have drowned or he would have starved to death once the waters really made the soils soft, and you know, they would. That's just how they ended. However, I just came across this new information. Well, it's not new, it's just that I'm starting to put the pieces back together. Because Velikovsky spoke about this, but this goes back so long ago, I forgot so much. And now I have to put all these pieces back together with electron flood theory and all of my continuing research. Now I got to start back from the beginning again because everything's, you know, I wasn't thinking 100% right when I started. So if I can't just make a little tweak here and a tweak there, I got to start from the beginning again, because electron flood theory shows how the universe is literally constructed. And does it have a meaning to eternity? Does it have a meaning to the gods and immortality and all of the crazy things that I've discovered on Earth? I don't know. But if we don't really research it, we're never going to find the answers to those things. So that's what we're doing, researching. All right, this is a video on this guy's channel, Greg J. And it's about Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, Channel 4, Boiling Earth and Sea. This is what I missed before. It's in the Quran, it says the same thing. The oceans boiled, the waters boiled, and Velikovsky said the same thing. And I somehow missed this originally, and I appreciate Greg J for pointing this out, and some others have too. But let's just hear what he has to say. He's did a nice job on this video.
I am Yahweh. Heard the people in the frightful night at the mountain of the law-giving. The whole mount quaked greatly, and the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and all the people saw the roars, and the torches, and the noise of the trumpet at the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood afar off. It was a perfect setting for hearing words in the voice of nature in an uproar. An inspired leader interpreted the voice he heard, 10 long, trumpet-like blasts. The earth groaned for weeks now. All its strata had been disarranged, its orbit distorted, its world quarters displaced, its oceans thrown upon its continents, its seas turned into deserts, its mountains upheaved, its islands submerged, its rivers running upstream, the world flowing with lava shattered by meteorites, with yawning chasms, burning naphtha, vomiting volcanoes, shaking ground. A world enshrouded in an atmosphere filled with smoke and vapor.
All right, I can understand this. I fully understand this from the documented historical accounts of eyewitnesses. These were written in ancient texts. I don't know whether they were passed down and then written, because I think I now understand how some people survived this. It was supposed to be divine retribution and everybody be wiped off the face of the earth, start over with half a dozen people, whatever. Well, that's just not really reality, I don't think. How that story came to be, I'm not 100% sure. I think the basis of it is based in truth, but there was more than just Noah and his family survived. I'm pretty sure of that. Now, where did these other people survive? How did they survive these boiling oceans? The oceans were boiling. The sea was boiling. As we read more about this, as we go through Velikovsky, he recounts all of these stories that were told, and not just in one place, not just the other. Now, you remember how he said some places turned to desert, some places over flooded, some places boiled, some places burnt. Well, what that is going to be from the fiery comet, they said, Venus. All right? Venus wasn't even here 3,500 years ago. It came out of the giant red spot from the feared god Jupiter. It was ejected, literally born from that great red spot. Well, that could be literally a vagina. I mean, I'm not kidding you. The way things are looking, no problem. Now, it's shot out through the solar system, really causing havoc with the orbits of all of these fairly stable orbiting bodies. Now, as push comes to shove, you get extreme heat reaction. And if the frequency of the reaction was just right, you would have more boiling of the water in a millimeter frequency than even on the land. So some of the land would be okay, but the waters would boil because of the type of frequency that would be generated from this thing passing at a certain angle and pushing at a certain boom, 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 resonance frequency, basically, of a certain intensity, let's go with that. So that it was like in the gigahertz range, where it's boiling water, just like it does in your microwave oven. The water boils. And, it doesn't catch on fire. There would be fires and all kind of cataclysms, but when a body comes close to another body, the body will contort. It will just, and it may stop in its spinning. That's what they said. The Earth stood still for a day. And all of this stuff was recorded. I mean, it's very, very hard to get your mind around it, but once you realize the size of the dragons and all that stuff, North Africa is one gigantic dragon. Let's just look at it so you have a full understanding of what the craziness of what was happening here and what we need to do to think about it. Okay, look at this, my good, wonderful, interested friends. What are we seeing here? This is North Africa, Straits of Gibraltar, Mediterranean Sea, Spain, so forth. Now, what are we looking at here? There's a whole bunch of tents right here and boats coming in. And then we see this. This is a symbol for dragon. And look at it, it runs all across the whole top of North Africa, all the way, and way over to the other end of North Africa. And look at that little line right there, that cut. Now, what if we looked on Google Earth? Could we find any of this stuff? Could we find a dragon? Could we find what looks like might have been Atlantis? I mean, there's a ship coming into what looks like Atlantis. And if we could find Atlantis, and we could find the dragon, and we could find a cut across its neck, boy, that would be pretty interesting. Because this is only, I think, from 1350 or something like that. All right, it's 1375 this map was from. Now, look at this. Look at how unbelievably detailed this is. Now, again, there's the boat coming into Atlantis, which I think I can show you. Here's the dragon's throat, cut. And it runs all the way across the whole north, all the way, until its tail flutes out at the end, way over the other end of North Africa. Now, of course, that's the Red Sea, which is not far away from its tail. Now, let's go and see on Google Earth if we can find any of these things. And don't forget what we're going to be looking for. A dragon, a pretty good sized one, with its throat cut. Atlantis. But this is desert. How could this be? Let's take a look. Okay, this is a good place to start. The mythology, an encyclopedia of mythology, New Larousse Encyclopedia of Mythology. And I mean, this puppy's got everything in it. Very, very detailed. Now, and then ancient mysteries, any of that stuff. A lot of people wrote about this stuff and everybody laughed at them because it's so incredible. Well, wait till I show you something that even the people that wrote this stuff will laugh at me. But when you look at the facts, you can't miss it. Okay, so we saw the map. So let's see if we can find Atlantis. Well, it's all a desert. Where would they put Atlantis? Well, if that was an ocean, and Velikovskys said, oceans turn to deserts, deserts turns to oceans, the earth was wrenched, which would happen because of its being crushed by the magnetic fields interacting with our magnetic field, distorting the earth and contorting it. Now, let's see what happened. How could they get in here? Let's say this was an ocean. Let's just guess. It was an ocean. Let's say it was an ocean. How would they get in here? Well, let's see if we can figure it out. And we're going to draw on Plato, because he talked about Atlantis. Now, I had been looking at this for years, the Eye of the Sahara, and I really feel pretty certain that was Atlantis. And here's the reason why. Plato said it was just outside the Straits, and everybody said the Straits of Gibraltar. But this, to me, there's no question that's the Straits. And there's no question that there's a separation between here and here, which was an overflow, which went around and over here. You see this? It went outside of the Straits and drained the Sahara Ocean, which was here all the way out. And you can see it obviously flowed out. Anybody with any understanding of the way mud flows and can see huge amounts of debris flowed out here. And they actually, I believe this is the Cape Verde Islands, made these deposits out here that were from the runoff. It's quite obvious now. And again, the Straits was right here, which would have kept this, and once it started to break through, it was all over. Everything just sort of flooded this whole area. But if Atlantis truly had a straits that could control entrance to this whole sea, I mean, think about that. And it appears that that's the case. You know, I have to have some real experts look into this. But I would say that that's the case. It overran and just continued to flow by. Now, is this what Plato said Atlantis was? Well, yeah, I would believe so. And you can see it's all run past Atlantis and flowed past it, dragging it out. Now, this really certainly looks to me like it was what they claimed Atlantis to be, Plato. And I looked at it pretty carefully. Now, I believe that there's actually still some of these slips where they had boats that came into these channels. And they had little boat slips like here. You see this here? And these were the rings. And then they would offload stuff and they'd come over the other side and go in. Now, it was extremely secure location because it's completely surrounded by these little ports of entry. And of course, and it's exact, well, let's see what Plato shows Atlantis as. Now, don't forget, look at these different colored rings, because that's transition metals. You see these different colors that are around, that surround these rings? Now, let's see what Plato shows. All right, Plato described it extremely well, and it's basically what we just saw. Okay, so it appears that that could very well have been Atlantis. That would be the entry where all those fancy-looking boats were. All of those fancy-looking tents and so forth were basically Atlantis. And then, of course, the dragon was up above here and ran all the way across the top. We'll go looking for the dragon in a second. But this whole area would have been an ocean. It was called, I believe, the Libyan Ocean. And the Atlanteans were literally the sea people. When this happened, it should have been about 1177 BC, 1200 BC, something like that, is when this event occurred, and the collapse happened, and the water ran out, and then they had reorganized from wherever they regrouped around the world, and they became what they call the Sea Peoples. And the Sea Peoples came back to devastate everybody and take over everybody else's lands. They came back highly sophisticated and, warlike. The Atlanteans were extremely powerful people. Now, and the Ethiopians said a lot of them came out highly sophisticated in every way, arriving from the mud. So this was all mud at one time. Now, so we have seen what I consider to be evidence that would show that this could very well have been all ocean and drained out. We saw the straits. We saw what I believe could be Atlantis. That would give us an extremely powerful group here. And when they were destroyed, they recapped themselves and came back as a sea people. That's my statement up to this point. Now, I suppose we have to look for the dragon now. Let's see what we can find. Okay, well, let's take a look. This is Atlantis, and above Atlantis was supposedly a dragon. Let's turn this so that we can see what we got here. All right, let's see what we got. Well, look at that. Look at that. You see that? That's a dragon's neck, I think. And that's the little flashy, fluty looking stuff on the dragon on the side, down in Chinatown and places like that, over in China where they have the parades. And that's his head going down his neck. Look at the size of that thing. And does he have dragon scales? Yeah, look at that. Dragon scales running all the way down that neck. And you see they're like blocky, so that it can still articulate and still be extremely, heavily armored. And this dragon goes all the way down. Look at that. That's his throat going all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Let's see how far it goes and how big this creature is, because it's supposed to go all the way across North Africa. Well, guess what? That's his head. This is his body. These are the legs. And all the way back here to the other side of North Africa is his tail. And there's the rotting tail over here. Now, there's something that's called effluent. Rotting, decaying carcasses and bodies have fluids within them that's drain out, and it's called effluent, and it's got a lot of transition metals, and they form colors, reds and blacks, and this appears to be some other colors that might represent some kind of dragon scale chemistry. Now, it comes all the way out, all the way out, all the way, and then they flare at the end. They make these fluty looking flares. You see that? That's still dragon tail right there. That's the flashy stuff at the end, and you could see that on that map. It's all the way out to here, as a matter of fact. That's still dragon scale flash. You see it? So it does exactly fit where they had it on the map. It's the whole north of Africa. Now, something they didn't have on the map that I find very interesting is that this gigantic, well, first of all, let's finish with the dragon. Here's the body, goes all the way out here. Now, I went through the entire digestive system, and it has a cloaca out here. And I'm not going to dig around out here, but that's where they poop, and that means it's an avian character. Now, can we show where the neck was cut? Absolutely we can. Here's his throat. All right? So this is his nose. There's the head. There's a red flaming eye. You see it? And then from the throat going down, it's a nice open throat. It's very nicely done. Easy to eat through that throat. All through these dragon scales, which they're, I mean, look at it. It's dragon scales all the way down. That's his dragon scaled throat. And it's armored on the outside. All right. So it goes down, it goes down, it goes down. How could you get through that armor? Is there a way something could cut that throat? Because we saw a big cut across it in the map. Well, let's just keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Going, 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 going. And of course, there's the fluty stuff up at the top, which is the flashy looking stuff that's on the dragon side of a dragon's body. And let's just get right down to where they slashed his throat. Why not? Why play games? Have a nice day. You're dead. All right. What is this? Remember I talked about effluent? That is body fluids. That's red blood. This was a red-blooded creature. And that is a gash across its throat, right across here. And it bled out in the desert. And it died here. Now, I also found a bunch of other little cuts. So it wasn't just one chop, have a nice day. I don't think. Like, see, there's a cut here, and there's some cuts over here, and a cut over here. I think these are cuts. I'm not even 100% sure, but they appear to be. They appear to be gashes that, you know, that's, I don't think that's supposed to be there. As I believe that was a cut. And I'm sure there was a hell of a battle here, and I think this was a cut here too. Whenever you see things running out, yeah, I'd be certain that was a cut. And it gashed here, but not enough to kill him. The one that killed him was the big one way up here that was on the map. Where is it? Right here. That's the slice that did the job. You see that? That's the slice. And from there, he just keeled over dead. And now, something as I was investigating this, looking through all the body and the organs and all that stuff, and the red, I believe this was the dragon wings, were this red stuff here. You know, you could come up here and look at yourself. You've got Google Map, Google Earth. That looks to me like it's not just sand blowing in a certain way. I see patterns here that look to me like almost like fascia, because fascia has the same look to it. But anyway, let's just go off that, because I can't prove any of that stuff now, and I can't prove anything I'm saying right at this point here. However, it sure looks like it to me. And if you can take any other takeaway, well, I'd like to know why. Any coroner will tell you this is the exact pattern of a dead, decaying body oozing its fluids out as it lays there dead. And I can show you those. They're too gruesome to show you, but they're exactly identical. The black and the red, identical. No difference whatsoever. And that's because the black blood is the vein blood, the red blood is the artery blood. Now, here's the crazy thing. What is his mouth doing here? And what is all this nasty stuff? Look at that. You ever seen anything like that before? You ever seen anything like that? Look at that stuff. What the hell is going on with this? So I started thinking, gee, that's insane. So I traced it out, where does this come from? I come back and I come back and I come back and I'm coming out and I go back and I say, well, here it's puddled right in here. And I say, ooh, that's coming right out of the dragon's throat. All right, because there's a dragon's throat right here. And it's coming out right in here. That's where it, and it looks pretty nasty right here. It looks like it's on fire almost. Look at that. Now, you see the red and the green? I kept following this back and going down his throat. Where's the red and the green coming from? You see, it's all over the place down here. See the red and the green? And then it mixes together and makes apparently an explosive cocktail. Because once it hits this area here, it becomes extremely explosive. and it's almost like it's shooting down rays of lightning, but these are some kind of chemical cocktail. Now, so we know it's coming out of his throat, and I could actually find the injectors, and here's the injectors to shoot it out. You see the green and red injectors? See them right here? There they are right there. And they shoot that stuff down into his throat, and he spits it out and kills people with it, or whatever he's spitting it out at. Now, in this case, it's a gigantic fish. I know. Don't go after me. It's here. What do you want me to say? What can I say? It is what it is, and what it is what it is. And I cannot change that. Now, what happened here? I know what happened. How and why, and how does it fit with the rest of the world? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, I'm almost 100% certain. All of these things happen at the same time. Because you see the runoff over this fish? And, well, first of all, let's see the fish. This is the fish's fin. All right? This is the fish's tail. These are the fish scales. This is a little muddled up here. I don't really know how to see that, but I believe that's the top of the fish. Usually they have a fin that goes over the top, and so I don't know if the eye would be down there. I don't know what's going on there. Forget that. Just look at this as a fish. I'd say it chopped his head off. Now, there's the fin, and this is where that toxic stuff invaded his vital flesh. That was vital living flesh. And this down here is still pink looking. This is really pretty, pretty vital looking flesh compared to what the invaded stuff is. Look, this is what happened to and that is strictly from this thing landing on there, burning through it. Nobody could dispute that, I don't think, although there will be people that will. Now, again, this is the tail. You see the tail comes flopping around here? See? That's the tail. Now, what happened here as all that water ran out? Some stuff ran over the top of the fish. It looks to me, this obviously ran over the top of the fish's tail. It appears to me. So what does that tell me? It tells me we got a dragon that was obviously killed just exactly like the map shows, whose neck was cut. And it appears at the exact same time it was trying to attack the fish, and did attack the fish. Whether it killed it or not, I have no idea. And all of this happens, it appears, at the exact same time that Atlantis collapsed, and the waters of the desert, of the Sahara Ocean, ran out and made it into Sahara Desert. And now we have no clue about it. And they have no clue about where these sea peoples came from either. This is where they came from. They were dispersed all around the world, but this was their headquarters. So probably 90% of them were here. So they had to regroup around the world, and they, I don't know where they reassembled, but all of a sudden they showed up one day and started wiping everybody out. And they said, well, how did all these people, where did they come from? They said, oh, they were the sea peoples. Well, they were the sea peoples. They owned the sea. They were the owners of the sea, literally. And so, at any rate, this, to me, all fits together. But it's so recent that it's very difficult for most people to accept. This was only 1177 BC, 1200 BC, right in that area. And then right around, I believe it was like 900 BC, something around there, the sea peoples came back as they reassembled. And that's when they, somewhere around there, maybe it was, I don't know exactly, but it was only 100 or 200 years later, they came back in mass to take over the property that they wanted. They were just takers. So I don't know if anybody can dispute what I'm saying. If they can, I'd like to have engagement. I don't care about disputing or fighting or anything, but I'd like to understand what was written and what was real and what wasn't real. And you could see the map. You saw the map. All exactly the same thing, identical, and his neck is cut. You saw Atlantis. You saw the boats coming in. You saw all the fancy-looking tents. I didn't see any fish there. And in the Bible or somewhere, one of the ancient texts, it says, he will cut the dragon that lives in the sea with his great and mighty sword. And that was it right there. So I think we got a little more thinking to do.